what can meditation do about it? That is a big question, because the Buddha says that mindfulness overcomes sorrow, lamentation. Now, how does meditation overcome? How does mindfulness overcome? Mindfulness is noting the mind and metta. As you continue progressively into our lesson, you learn how we practice mindfulness on this mind and this body. Body is the metta. So it is this noting the mind and metta with detachment. When this agreeable object comes into contact with the senses, the disagreeable object is unable to hold on to the mind and build up mental disturbances and sorrow. In this way, mindfulness can overcome sorrow and lamentation. You learn how to practice detachment when you meditate, because in awareness, you are not supposed to attach to phenomena, to the object that appears. You are supposed to note the object, whatever arises. So as you note the object, as you practice mindfulness, for example, our objects of rising and falling, that is the air element, the abdomen that rises and falls. It arises and it falls. It sounds so simple. Just bear attention on this rise and fall. But it is not so simple when you practice. It sounds so simple when you listen. It is not so simple when you practice. You'll find that the mind goes on. The mind is tired of looking at this rising and falling. So it goes dreaming, thinking. Then the detachment is the noting that, oh, the mind has gone off. It has run away. It has gone to other objects. Why? Because the object is more delightful. It's more enjoyable. This object is not enjoyable. It is just, you don't bother about it. It still rise. It still fall. Unless you die, if you don't watch this rise and fall, then you will be very, very attentive. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. It just rise, it just fall. So the mind goes to the dreaming. And it starts to think about the job, thinks about the family, thinks about what to cook tomorrow, what to buy tomorrow. The mind goes to the inflation. The mind goes to your car parking outside, whether it's safe or not. The mind goes everywhere except this rise and fall. So when you note the mind, because the mind now, the object is very strong. Now as you note the mind, there is this detachment. You practice detachment. What do you mean by that? It means that the moment you note your mind, you're not carried away by your thoughts. Do you know what is carried away by thoughts? Carried away by thoughts means that you're really not aware at all. You get so angry that you scold somebody, you hit somebody, you throw things at somebody, then after that you regret. You say, I should have done such a thing, it's horrible. I shouldn't hurt him, or sometimes I shouldn't hurt my loved ones. Get carried away. Sometimes even the parents that cane the children until they landed in hospital. They got carried away. Why? Because the children bring back a lot of duck eggs. They don't like the duck eggs in their report card. And so they think that it is for the good of the son. Then they gain and gain and gain until the child landed in hospital. In other words, they lost their mind, get carried away by their thoughts. Because they are not detached. When the mind is not detached, it cannot think properly. It becomes very emotional. It absorbs into the thinking and become very emotional. Now, if they are negative thinking, if a person is in sorrow and he keep thinking about, oh, I lost all my money, what happened? Now if I go back home, I have no money for my wife, for my children, what happened? Now they are absorbed in such thinking. Now this is a different type of absorption. This is the unwholesome absorption, not the wholesome absorption that I talked about just now, where there's a lot of happiness and joy. Now this one is a lot of sadness and lamentation, a lot of sorrow, because the mind is absorbed in the wrong object. That's how they kill themselves, because they could not think anymore. The only thought is to escape. They can't face their loved one, and the only escape is to kill themselves. Now nowadays, a lot of people kill themselves. The more developed the country is, the more the people kill themselves. And sometimes, not only they kill themselves, they kill other people first before they kill themselves. They take a gun and shoot, and if everybody they can see, then only they shoot themselves. Because the mind is not detached. The mind is so absorbed in the thinking that when we have sadness, we have a thought that is unpleasant, disagreeable, negative, and if we are not aware, if we keep absorbed in that bad thoughts, in the negative thoughts, they produce a lot of mental pain, a lot of sorrow. Lots and lots. You can't sleep, you can't eat, you can't do anything, because the mind is sorrowful. It is attached to the problem. Mindfulness is the escape. Once you learn mindfulness, automatically the mind, when he feels the pain coming, it detaches from the object. It does not follow the object. Detach. And as it detaches from the object, the suffering subsides, disappear. The second one, strong and continuous mindfulness prevents defilements from arising, as when wholesome mind assists, unwholesome mind cannot assist together at the same time. When we practice mindfulness, as we practice rising, falling, as we meditate, and if our mindfulness is strong, unwholesome mind cannot enter. Why? Because the mind arises one at a time. There is no two minds arises together at the same time. It arises one at a time. Just as the seeing mind, you enjoy seeing, or the tasting mind, you enjoy eating. And after the eating stops, then the seeing arises. Very fast, continuous. One sees the other arise. Now just as you are listening to me, as you look at me, you think that you see and look at me at the same time? It is not so. It is different time. But because the speed of our mind is so fast that you think it's the same time, it is not the same time. You see, then you hear, then you see, then you hear. So it alternates. And sometimes they find it distracting to see. So they close their eye. They only hear. So they find that their concentration is better because there is less distraction. They don't have to see. They only have to hear. Otherwise, Sometimes seeing become a distraction. Because there's me sitting there, not much action, nothing much to see. Unless you're seeing television, then there's a lot to see. So it becomes a distraction just to see and to look at me. So some of them just close their eyes and they listen. And they find that their concentration is better. Because now the hearing mind is more continuous. So they can hear more and not distracted by the seeing. So this mind, one after another, if we have moment, we have mindfulness, unwholesome mind cannot arise. And if we are continuous mindful for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, our mind is very wholesome. Unwholesome mind cannot arise. So therefore, when you're unhappy, when you're lonely, when you're sad, you just sit down quietly, take your rising and falling. You find that after some time, you become peaceful and your pain disappears. Your mental pain is no more. Because you have built up wholesome mind. And that wholesome mind has become strong. When a wholesome mind is strong, unwholesome mind is weak. But when the unwholesome mind is strong, wholesome mind is weak, it is opposite. Just as when there is light, there can be no darkness. Only absence of light is the darkness. Just as absence of wholesome mind is the unwholesome mind. When there is unwholesome mind, there is no wholesome mind. If we think a lot of negative thoughts, unwholesome mind, they produce a lot of dissatisfaction, a lot of ill will, discontentment, anger, frustration, sadness, lamentation, pain, grief, despair. In meditation, you learn the nature of the mind, which you can learn from books. You can read books, you can gain knowledge from books, but you can't experience the book. You have to meditate to experience the nature of this mind and body. Things as they really are, the Buddha says. Meditation is experiencing reality, things as they really are. Not just concept, not just belief, not just thinking, but experiencing. Then only it arrives at the insight knowledge. We call it the experiential knowledge. The knowledge that is gained through experiencing, not through listening, not through reading, not through analyzing, but through direct practice. Strong mindfulness built up samadhi, calmness. Now you find that I'm also talking about calmness and concentration. There are two different types of concentration. One concentration that leads to absorption. Another concentration, we call it excess concentration, that do not lead to absorption, it leads to wisdom. As we meditate with mindfulness, and when mindfulness becomes strong, our concentration becomes strong. The other type is the direct developed concentration, and mindfulness is weak. Now, our mindfulness meditation, our mindfulness is strong, then develop concentration. Now, that is the difference. Mindfulness meditation is less dangerous. In fact, it is not dangerous at all if you have proper guidance, proper practice, if you don't go and experiment with your own mind. Just follow instruction, step by step. Then Q&A or feedbacks, proper guidance. There is no danger at all. The more you meditate, the more you develop wisdom of things that really are, because they are true things. It cannot lead to hallucination or madness. Only wrong types of meditation lead to hallucination and madness because their object is not real. their objects mostly are concepts and imagined concepts. Concepts that are where you use to imagine. There are many types of concentration meditation. And the danger is there because the mindfulness is weak. So when the mind gets into hallucination, it does not know that it's a hallucination. It thought that it is real. It thought that it is real. Whereas our mindfulness meditation knows the difference between what is hallucination, what is creating, the mind that is creating, and what is the real thing that the mind is not creating. Knows the difference. Mindfulness can see the difference. Concentration is just absorption into object. Awareness is not strong. So the danger in practicing concentration meditation is the hallucination. You must have a good teacher. When you say you started seeing the Buddha, you start seeing everything, then he'll give you a good slap, then you wake up. So you need a good teacher with a strong slap. And then it is okay to shake you up. Because the more you go in, the more you see more and more things. And very soon you think you are a Superman, go to your floor and jump down. But the only problem is you can't fly. You come down, straight down. So that is danger in concentration meditation, because the mindfulness is not strong. But our meditation on mindfulness taught by the Buddha, with this object of watching mind, body, feeling, and reality or nature, it does not lead to madness, craziness. Does not. It leads to more and more of reality. The more you practice, the more you understand your mind, the more you understand your feeling, the more you know how to deal with your mind and feeling to overcome the whole mess of suffering, whole mess of mental torture.